Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Coach Matt, EliteThrowsCoaching.com, and in today's video, I'm going to be doing a much more technical style video, talking to you more about the power foot, or the role of the power foot, and what the power foot actually does, and how it plays into the entire rotational shot put and discus throw, where it lands in the circle, and sort of everything that I teach having to deal with your power foot in the middle of that circle. Now, this is one of those topics where there's a lot of different people out there that have a lot of different opinions and a lot of different reasons and a lot of different proof and a lot of different sources to what works best. So what I am going to be showing you here is the way that I teach my athletes and my philosophy on what the right foot or the power foot does in the middle of the circle. Now, we're going to be talking and using the term right foot a lot because I am a right-handed thrower. Even though we've had a lot of really good left-handed throwers over the years, I like to teach in terms of right side, right foot. So obviously we're just going to have to reverse these things if you are a left-handed thrower. Now, this style, this technique, this is what I would teach to an athlete who just started working with me. Maybe they are a middle school athlete, maybe they're a high school athlete that has very little coaching or does not have a coach. Maybe it's a college athlete who maybe didn't have coaching or has never had a coach. Maybe it's somebody at a camp or somebody at a clinic. This is how I teach the throw. These are some of the drills that I use, and this is how I explain the role and the position and what that right foot does in the middle of the circle. So a lot of people out there are going to see this and they're going to go, well, that's not the way that I learned. Or, well, my coach teaches it a little bit differently. Or, well, so-and-so who's the #1 thrower in the world does it this way. Or so-and-so who's been to the Olympics twice does it this way. Or so-and-so who's 6'8" and 330 pounds does it this way. We're trying to do this kind of for the people who watch this channel. We're talking about newer coaches, newer throwers, people that don't have great coaching, people that are just starting out, that need things explained to them in a very basic, structured way without getting into super technical details and without getting into kind of years and years and years of research and, sightings and, video evidence and all this stuff. This is just sort of your bare bones, I would say, the most conservative way of teaching somebody what the right foot does in the middle of the circle. Okay, so before I get started, there are 2 rules that you need to keep in mind as we go through everything here in this video. The first rule that I want you to keep in mind is what I teach, or where I teach the right foot and the left foot to be pointing when you are releasing the shot or when you are just about to release the discus. When I position my athletes, when they are first starting out with me, I position my athletes so that both of their feet are facing forward. So if you think of it, we've shown it a million times, you're in that power position and you rotate and point your feet forward. Okay? You look like this. Both feet are pointing forward, right down the middle of that throwing sector. And whether you have the shot in your hand or you have the discus in your hand and you're getting ready to pull in that left elbow and release, or pull in that left elbow and push, you are going to finish with both of your feet, both of your toes, pointing down the middle of the sector. We're going to be up on the ball of that right foot. Okay, so that's very important. We're up on the ball of the right foot. Okay, the right foot's pointing. We are shifting our weight. We're in the middle of shifting our weight onto the left and pushing. But both feet are facing down the middle of the sector. The second thing that I always want you to keep in mind while you're watching this video is the idea of pivoting. How you are able to pivot on your toes or on the balls of your feet, okay? If you want to pivot, you need to have weight on your foot. And if you have weight on your foot, you will be able to pivot. So it kind of works both ways. It's two sides of that equation. More weight on your foot equals the ability to pivot. And if you want to pivot, you need to have more weight on your foot. That is just the way that it works. If I wanted to pivot on my right foot, I need to have my weight on my right foot. If the weight is on my right foot, I can pivot, okay? If the weight is on my left foot, there's no way I could ever pivot on my right. I can pick it up, I can kind of turn it, I can go up on my heel, I can move the foot all around, but I can't pivot here because more weight is on my left. I can't really pivot here because weight is in the middle. I can't even pivot right here because I still have a bunch of weight. If I pick this foot up, I'm falling this way. If I want to pivot, I need to have weight on that foot. So in order to pivot, you need to have all of your weight on the balls of your feet. You want to pivot on the left, weight needs to be on the left. If you want to pivot on the right, weight needs to be on the right. In order to pivot, you must have weight on your feet. Okay, so I know there's a little bit of a glare, but let's take a look at sort of how I process what's going on in the circle. And this is how coaches should really process what's going on in the circle. I like to take a look at my throwers and imagine it's a little bit more of a bird's eye view. So if you have a right-handed thrower, okay, they're facing the back of the circle. The back of the circle, if you think of it like a clock, is 12 o'clock. And then if you're facing the back of the circle, like someone who's about to start the full rotation in the shot or the full spin in the discus, you can look around that circle. You've got 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. So as you stand, and we'll show you over here, as you stand, you are facing 12 o'clock, okay? You have to also think of this, and you can think of this almost like a compass, where there is a 360-degree circle, okay? So if you just move a quarter, so if you move from 12 to 3, you've moved 90 degrees. 12 to 6, you've moved 180 degrees. 12 to 9, you have gone 270 degrees. And 12 to 12, you have gone 360 degrees. And it works the opposite way. 90, 180, 270, 360. Okay? So when a right-handed thrower comes out of the back of the circle, we want that long, sweeping right foot. That long, sweeping right foot, I want to land facing over here at 3 o'clock. So that right foot's going to come down, boom, facing at 3 o'clock. Now, if it's facing kind of between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock, that's totally okay. But I want it to face at 3. There's a reason for this. We're going to show you in the circle. But if that foot comes down at 3, we are going to be set up to apply a lot of power and keep our weight on that right foot. Keeping weight on that right foot is going to allow us to pivot 270 degrees so that that right foot is pointing directly down the middle of the sector when you release the shot or the discus. Now, there are some people that will come out of the back of the circle, spin around in midair, and their right foot's facing over here at 1 o'clock, or it's facing all the way back at 12. I do not like this at all. We're going to show you why. The other thing is that some people come out of the back of the circle, and they want the foot facing here, facing 6 o'clock. And I do not like that either. I think 3 o'clock or between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock is the perfect position so that your athlete is able to stay balanced, so that your athlete is able to keep their weight on that right foot, and that way they're able to pivot and get that right foot all the way down the middle of the sector when they release the shot or discus. Okay, so let's imagine that bird's eye view. You're the thrower, you're standing in the circle. Facing the camera right here is 12 o'clock, and then you work around the circle. 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, back to 12. Or if you want to think of it a different way, 90 degrees would be from 12 to 3. 180 would be from 12 to 6. 270, 12 all the way to 9. And 360, 12 all the way back around to 12 again. So at a camp or at a clinic or first time working with the thrower out at the circle, first day of practice with your new team and your freshmen who have never thrown before, the number one thing that we teach, and the thing that I think most coaches are going to agree on, is the position of the right foot in the standing throw position or in the power position. We start with the power foot just inside the front half of the circle, pointing at 9 o'clock, okay? And then when we teach them to throw, all the weight is on the right foot, the ball of the right foot. We're up, the heel is off the ground, all of the weight is on the ball of the right foot. From there we ground the left, and then we turn and pivot on the right. We're able to pivot on the right because all of the weight is on the right. If all of the weight is on the left too early, then you can't pivot. You can just lift and kind of twirl and drag and do all this other stuff. So we need right foot facing 9 o'clock. We're going to then turn that foot, turn that knee, turn that hip all together as one unit down the middle. And we can pivot on that foot, even in sneakers. You can pivot on that foot because all of your weight is on the foot. And you can see what this teaches. It teaches you to keep your weight back on that power foot. It teaches you that that power foot is in the middle. It's the middle of that clock. It's where the hands of the clock attach to the clock. And it teaches a 90-degree turn, turning from 9 to 6. Boom. A nice, easy 90-degree turn. Not from 12 to 6. Your athletes are never going to get around. Okay? Not from 11 to 6. Your athletes are never going to get around. Okay, sometimes from 10 to 6, if your athletes are really flexible and really good athletes, they can get around. But ideally, that 90-degree turn is the best way of doing it, going from 9 to 6. Nice, easy, simple turn, 90-degree turn of that right leg. The knee, the ankle, and the hip all turning together. So the next thing that I teach is the mirror turn. Now you may have a different name for it. You may call it a wheel drill, or a half turn, or a quarter turn, or whatever you want to call it. I call it the mirror turn. That's the way that I was taught. That's the terminology that I use. Now, when I teach my athletes the mirror turn, I teach them to start their foot facing 3 o'clock. So we're going to be facing this cone, where in the power position, we were facing this cone. So I'm going to turn my back to you and try to turn around and talk at the same time. So we start with the foot facing where? 3 o'clock. And we are teaching the athlete to do that half turn. That 180-degree turn to get this foot to what? Face 9 o'clock. To get into a proper power position. So we start here. Where is the weight? All of the weight is on the right foot because we want to pivot on the ball of the right foot. All the weight is on the right foot. Then as we pivot and as we teach, we come through, boom, where's my right foot? Facing where? 9 o'clock. So we teach our athletes to pivot, keeping our weight on the right foot. Pivot all the way around that 180 degrees, that half turn, and then we teach them to what? continue turning, and throw. So it's actually a 180-degree turn plus a 90-degree finish. It's a 270-degree turn, just like I showed you up on the whiteboard. You are going from 3 o'clock, 12, 9, 6, 270 degrees, 3/4 of that full circle, 270 degrees. Now, if you're coming out of the back of the circle, whether it's a South African drill, whether it's a full throw, where do you need your right foot to point? Obviously, if we're doing the South African or doing a full throw, we want the right foot to come out of the back of the circle, and we want the athlete to land or touch down or whatever you want to call it with their right foot facing 3 o'clock. That's what we teach. So we teach 9 to 6, 90-degree rotation for a standing throw. 3 to 6, 270-degree of rotation for your mirror turn or your half turn or whatever you guys want to call it. Okay, there's a million names for it. So, wouldn't it make sense just to have somebody come out of the back of the circle landing at 270? If we are teaching our athletes that it takes 270 degrees of motion to do that mirror turn, to do essentially the second half of the full throw, what is going to happen if their foot comes out of the back landing, I don't know, here? Where's 270 from 5 o'clock? Okay? 270 from 5 o'clock is not 6. It is 8. Here. Do you want right sector falls? Probably not. So we don't want to under-rotate and have the foot pointed here. Okay? Your athletes, if you are watching this video, more than likely, I would say a good 85% chance your athletes are not good enough or skilled enough at this point to take the foot from 5 and go all the way around, 300 and whatever degrees, all the way around, back to 6, okay? Probably not going to happen, okay? 330 degrees, not going to happen, okay? At the same time, what is gonna happen if your athletes over-rotate? They come out of the back of the circle, and instead of pointing here, they're pointing all the way back here at, say, 1 o'clock. Well, where's 270 degrees from 1 o'clock? Well, 270 degrees from 1 o'clock is 4. So do you want your athletes to be here when they throw, pointing at 4 o'clock? No, you're going to see a lot of left sector falls, and the most important thing is the athletes are going to pick their foot up off the ground. Okay? They start to shift weight too early. If you have an athlete that lands here, they know that the front of the circle is that away. So what do you think happens? This right foot stops, and they continue to move their body and shift onto their left foot. So now they can't pivot. So what do? They lift and scrape. They kind of mush down and scrape. Or my favorite is they get in this weird kind of candy cane position where they land here, they get here, and then it becomes this kind of lift my foot and scoop kind of thing where their body is curved this way. And they're trying to throw and they scoop the heck out of it because why? Their right foot comes off the ground and they're only throwing with their left foot. They're here in this weird kind of scooping position. That's because they've over-rotated out of the back. They understand, I've over-rotated. I know I should be doing 270. But if I do 270, I'm going to be throwing it this way. So let's stop my foot. If their foot stops, they're going to shift. Because why? If you're pivoting, your weight needs to be on the foot. If you're not pivoting, where's your weight going to go? Back to center. Okay, in order to stay balanced, you have to stay moving. And if the foot is not moving, you're going to what? Fall back. And then lift the foot and then not have solid connection with the ground. So doesn't it make sense? Doesn't it just sort of complete the puzzle? That when you come out of the back of the circle in the South African or in the full throw, in discus or shot, you want your right foot, your power foot, facing 3 o'clock or maybe a little bit more toward 4 o'clock. That way when you come around, you can continue to rotate and push through that right side. Because why? If you want to pivot, you need to have weight on your foot. And if you have weight on your foot, you will be able to pivot. So that's what we want. Isn't that the goal of the middle of the circle? Is to keep your weight back on the power foot and continue the power foot rotating. So if we teach our athletes that the half turn or the mirror turn is 270 degrees all the way down the middle, shouldn't they be landing with their foot facing this way so they can continue to stay balanced and pivot all the way around to 270? Doesn't that make sense? Doesn't that kind of fit the puzzle? We teach them 90. We teach them 270. So out of the back of the circle, I know this isn't going to look good on camera, out of the back of the circle, let's teach 270. Right foot is here. Pivot and continue moving. Keep the weight on the right so you can pivot. And if you want to pivot, you need to keep weight on the right. Solves a lot of issues that we have been seeing in our throwers. Okay? The over rotation causes the right foot to stop. Or the heel drops. They shift backwards onto their left and they throw and lose connection with the ground. Or they under rotate, causing right sector falls, causing the heel to drop, causing the right foot to come off the ground. If you are going to teach 90 degrees to down the middle for a standing throw, for a power throw, if you're going to teach a half turn from 270 all the way down the middle with that release, doesn't it make sense that the South African in the full throw, when you drive out of the back of that circle, the right foot should land facing 3 o'clock so you can continue that 270 degrees of movement. It's ingrained in their head. You're doing the drills. You're teaching them to turn 270. So shouldn't you teach them when they drive out of the back of the circle that the right foot should be facing 3 o'clock just like it does in your half turn drills?
I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? I hope it's not just me, because I have been getting a lot of videos to analyze. We do our online coaching now through Coach Now. Coaching Now through Coach Now, that's kind of a tongue twister. But we do all of our online coaching through Coach Now. I get videos emailed to me, and I got to be honest with you, that is the #1 question, is that the athlete, the #1 problem is that athletes are landing, and instead of having their foot all the way over at 3 o'clock, it's at 6, or it's over rotated back here to 12, or it's at 2, or it's at 1, and then they're shifting weight, they're not pivoting on their right foot. It all comes back to one simple thing. The right foot is not pointed over at 3 o'clock when you come out of the back of the circle. That's why that long sweep, we're going to talk about that in another video, but that long sweep with the inside of the foot and the inside of the knee is necessary coming out of the back, because then you can just turn it and bloop over here to 3 o'clock. Makes sense to me from just a human movement standpoint. If we're going to teach somebody good drills, if we're going to teach somebody proper movement in their drills, wouldn't you want those drills to appear in the full throw as well? Why would you teach a different position for the right foot to land if you're teaching a half turn with the right foot facing a certain direction? Why don't you teach the South African in the full throw where that right foot lands pointing in a certain direction? Doesn't that make sense? No other sport does this. You know, if you teach somebody to hold a baseball bat one way and you do all their drills this way, and then you go, okay, now hold it with all your fingers locked together, they're going to go, why did I have to hold it like this the first couple of drills? Well, you want me now to hold it like that? Doesn't make any sense. Hold it the right way the whole time. Put your feet in the right spot the whole time. Okay? Any sport you can think of an example where you teach them the basics, the fundamentals, the step-by-step. But it's a breakout. It's a puzzle piece that's taken out of the full throw. It's not just some random kooky, quirky thing because you kind of want to get your name out there and create your own personal drill and all this other garbage, okay? So teach the way that they're going to throw. If you teach your movements, if you teach your breakdowns, they need to be breakdowns of the full throw, because all you're going to do at that point is confuse them. They're going to be wondering why, and they're going to have a lot more other problems that are going to be bubbling up because of the stuff that you've been teaching them the wrong way. Okay, so teach the way that they are going to throw. Make sure the breakdowns and the drills are actually in their full throws. All right, so I know this was a much more technical breakdown of one part of the throw, but every so often we do some fun videos. We do some videos on training, some videos on, diet and mindset and all that stuff. Today I wanted it to be a technical kind of outline, footprint, if you will, footprint, get it? Dad joke, of the throw. So you guys, real quick, if you wouldn't mind, right down below this video is the subscribe button. Just kind of click that button that just popped up over there. Also, there's some other stuff popping up. Our online coaching is going to pop up, and another video that's going to help you guys out as well. The John Godina wall drill is going to be popping up. So click all the stuff that just popped up, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell, and make sure to leave a comment down below, and I will answer your question in a future video. Thanks so much for sticking around and watching this whole thing. I hope all you track throwing nerds liked it. If there's any questions, leave them down below, and I will get to you in my next video.